Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talking About Puppies with Frank. That's me, and this is Maximus Amicus Bodidlius. Call him Bo for short. You'll hear me a lot of times on the videos and on live stream talking about Bo. This is he. He's 7.5 years old. He's an English Golden Retriever, and he's my service dog. So anyway, welcome to Talking About Puppies with Frank. That's me. Let's head on into the live stream. And hello, everybody. I'm Frank Griggs, and this is Talking About Puppies with Frank. That's me. And today we're going to talk about puppies. And we're going to talk about the olfactory system, or as I like to call this segment, the nose. So we're going to be talking more about that in just a little while. Want you to know that we were supposed to have a nutritionist here today, but unfortunately he got the flu, so he won't be here. So I had to reinvent this episode or this volume. So this is volume 4, and unfortunately it's not going live on Facebook again. So I'm going to hire somebody to come in and fix this situation so that I can make sure that we get this going the right way. If nothing more, I'll just start recording them and just playing them that way. I don't have much of a choice, but I will get this to work. Pardon my language, come hell or high water. So anyway, so today we're going to talk about an important aspect of a dog. Probably one of the most important aspects that makes them such a unique animal. Makes them such a unique animal in their relationship with humans. So what I want to do is I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to talk about the nose. And so if you look here on the screen, right over here, we've got a beagle, and a beagle are well known for their scenting ability. They're very good hunting dogs. Kind of hard to train sometimes because of their scent capabilities, but they are really good dogs. So what I want to do is I want to talk about this area of the dog today. So right in there. And so we're going to come down here and we're going to slide down to the next screen here. This is a dog's nostrils. If you couldn't tell, that's what they are. So this is the key entry point for the dog's scent. Now, it's not the only thing that takes place, but this is actually a pretty unique situation for canines because right here, this nose print is actually the same as a person's fingerprints. And in some countries in Europe, they will actually print the dog's nose for registry purposes because it's unique to that particular dog. So if you wanted to, you could actually nose print your dog. I would recommend possibly using maybe food coloring or something like that. But yeah, you could nose print your dog and keep a copy of it. That way you would know it's your dog. I wouldn't use permanent ink. Might not be a very good thing to do. But anyway, so this is a pretty unique situation. Also, what's unique about it is the way that it's split. It's opened up over here on the sides and over here as well. And so they can actually take air in and push air out at the same time. So when they're scent working, they're really working hard, and there's a lot going on in that process. I think you might remember from another video where I talked about that puppies have a sensor, a heat sensor in the nose, in the nostrils itself, and they use this when they're newborns because they use that to find the mother's teat so that they can nurse. It's said that that sensor, they just go away at some point in time. It'd be interesting for me to know, I don't know about you, but it'd be interesting for me to know just exactly, how long does that really last in the situation? So, it's really an interesting situation inside of a dog. So again, this is the nostrils. Again, this can be printed for nose print. Now, it's kind of also interesting that they can actually sniff different scents in each side of the nostril. And it's said that the right side, the nostril on the right side, is used to, and the term they use is a con-specific odor, which would be a member of the same species. So when they're scenting about dogs, they bring it in through the right nostril, or this also is processed through here in the brain as to be something that's what's the word I want to use, that's threatening or an alarming situation. So it's processed through the right side. Now, on the left side of the nostril, this is where they will process familiar odors. It would be like if you're the puppy parent or the pet dog's human, it would sniff your information through the left nostril. They're more preferential, according to what I read. Again, not species information on the right side, familiar odors on the left side. And I thought it's really kind of unique from that standpoint that they can actually process that in their brain by that way. Now this is a hunting dog here. I can tell. I'm thinking it might be a German Shorthair, something like that. I don't know for sure, but anyway. I thought that was pretty unique. Anyway, well, let's go on to the next thing here. And let's look here. The thing that's going to make this so important for a dog is the olfactory system itself. And it all goes into what's called the olfactory bulb. In a human, we have around 6 million olfactory receptors in our nose. Now, each olfactory cell in a human has around 25 olfactory receptors. So again, that all totals up to about 6 million olfactory receptors. In a canine, it's so much more important. Their sense of smell is anywhere up to 10,000 to 100,000 times better than ours. So when they take it in, their olfactory cells have hundreds of receptors for each olfactory cell, which gives them about 300 million olfactory receptors. Now, 300 million would be basically tied into a bloodhound. That's probably the most prolific scent dog that there is. They have probably around 300 million. Now, in the start of the video, you saw Bo. Bo probably has about 220 million olfactory receptors. A German Shepherd, somewhere around there as well. Now, if it's a wolf, wolf actually has more, and I can't even show you on here because their snout is much longer. And so everything that they do is geared towards scent. And so they have to rely on their own survivability for that scent. So, but anyway, the scent comes in and it goes up through here. Now, when it's processed in the brain of a dog, 40% of their brain is geared towards scent. So this part right in here would be geared towards scent. I mean, that's phenomenal. And it processes both on the right and left side of the brain. So that's a lot of power and a lot of energy that goes out and expended just on scent alone. So again, it comes through the snout up in here. It's bouncing off all inside of here, and I'll show you that in just a second. I'm going to mute 1 second. I have to cough. And I'm back. So that's a lot of energy that's expended compared to our little pea brain right over here. We've got nothing on the dog as far as scent is concerned. So let's go to the next picture here and look at this. Okay, this is the inside of the snout of a dog. Here we have the front of the nostrils, and again, it shows that it can take air in and out, and it's designed to help bring in scent. Now, I will tell you this too: if the dog's nose is wet, if it's wet, then it's actually helping to attract more scent. And so it's collecting more scent particles and processing it in through the system here. So when a dog, in fact, I've seen Bo when he's got his nose to the ground, a lot of times his nose will be almost running because it's so wet. And again, that's part of their system and their makeup to gather scent. Now, when they take it in, it comes in through here, and the air passage, if they're just breathing it in, it comes down through here and then down inside. So the air passage, they can take air passage in. They can also bring in scent at the same time as well. Now, when it comes in at really high velocity. So I don't know if you've ever watched the dog scenting, but a lot of times they'll have their nose up in the air and they'll be, and so what they're really doing is they are bringing in much more information into their snout. And so they're forcing that in. What it does is it comes up in here and it hits here and it comes back and it comes back around about 180 degrees. And this is called the olfactory epithelium. And up in here is where all the olfactory receptors are. And so what it does is it bounces off in here and comes back around and it starts capturing all those scent particles and starts processing. And what it does is that through the nerve system, then it processes it over here through the olfactory bulb to where that goes now into the brain itself. And they can determine a lot of things just based on that information. And when it gets up in here into the brain, it's really kind of interesting because what it does is it processes it based on a emotional value. Now, again, that emotional value can be a good emotional value or it can be a bad emotional value based on a particular scent. And so that's the way it's processed and the dog can determine that. But it's not just that type of information that's brought in as well. The dog's scent system, the olfactory system, to me is just unbelievable. It's phenomenal. I saw a video, and you can find this on YouTube. There was an elderly guy that hadn't seen his dog for years and had lost a lot of weight. Now, when they reintroduced him to his dog, the dog didn't recognize him. Number one, because dog's eyesight is really not that great. Their eyesight's like 20/75, somewhere in there. And so the dog didn't really have much to do with the guy. But the minute the dog went up and sniffed him, I mean, it was an instant. It was a miracle change that took place instantly. That dog just was excited with energy and so much excitement because his person was back. And I would recommend, if you get a chance, to look that video up online. It's an elderly man is reunited with his dog after losing lots of weight. And you can see in that video, you can actually see the instant that that dog processed that scent. It's just phenomenal. And I would really recommend watching that. But anyway, right here is called the femoral nasal organ. It's also known as Jacobson's organ. We actually, as humans, we have one. We no longer use it. But this is what processes, and it processes pheromones. And so this organ right here is designed to process pheromones, and it's got an intake valve right in here that brings that in. Now, it will process pheromones. And this is when a dog is at the fire hydrant or at the tree and they're sniffing, they are using that organ to determine the pheromones that are laying in the urine that's all over the ground. Now, one of the things that benefits dogs is actually high humidity, because it keeps things a lot more moist and they can pick up more information from that than if it's just dry. And if you ever watch a dog after it rains or after it's snowing and the snow started melting, they will be sniffing the devil out of everything because it just accentuates that scent. But for the pheromones, they take it in here. It comes up again through the nervous system, and then it goes into the brain. And they can determine a lot about a dog. They can determine whether it's in heat. It can determine if it's pregnant. It can determine if a male is neutered. It can determine the age of a dog. And there's so much information that they can process just through the pheromones. Now, I will tell you also that using the pheromones, they can actually determine pheromones on humans as well. And I have a friend who Bo would really not have a lot to do with her until she became pregnant. And when she became pregnant, because her whole body chemistry was changing, when she became pregnant, he immediately started attaching himself to her. And we've seen this time and time again where a dog can pick up on something in scent, but a lot of that is from the hormones and everything else like that. So it's just phenomenal what they can bring through here. Excuse me there. It's phenomenal what they can do, and they can process information. Um, it just amazes me to see how this works. And that's one of the reasons why in our training program, Heroes Puppy for Life, is that we rely on the relationship bond training. And for that reason, that's why we put the puppy with the individual instead of training a dog a year or 2 years old and then placing it with the individual. My philosophy is that if I put that puppy with the individual at 8 weeks, they will grow together. But the key is that as they're growing together, the puppy is learning every scent about that person. And there's a study that was done, and it says that canines prefer their person's scent over most every other scent. So it's kind of like your scent to your dog is almost like your cologne for your dog. Your cologne that you wear to get everybody's attention. For that dog, that is their scent. That's their person. So it's interesting on it. There was another study that's interesting on this as well that says that it's out of Japan. And basically what it says is that if you've seen the old saying, you've heard the old saying, well, if my dog doesn't like a person, then I'm not going to like them. Well, that comes to find out that it's actually not that situation. The situation is that the dog is picking up on their person and that person's response to that other person. So, the dog is reading you, not the other person, whether they're good or bad. Now, that person may have some kind of chemical scent that it puts the dog off. But still, according to this research, the dog is reading you based on your reception of that individual. So it's kind of interesting. You may cause your dog not to like somebody. But anyway, it's kind of like, well, you think about it, okay? Let's put it this way. Let's say that I'm near a person that I really am suspicious of this person. They're not putting off a good vibe to me. Well, that's automatically increasing adrenaline, and it's causing my chemical structure to change. Well, if my dog knows my complete chemical structure, he already knows that there's an issue, and he knows it, and that's what's triggering that situation. So it's really kind of interesting when you look at it. So, but anyway, this is the olfactory system, and to me, it's just phenomenal how this all works and how these dogs can learn all this information and so much about everything just from scent. It's amazing. So anyway, there you got a whole bunch of 25-cent words, olfactory epithelium, the moral nasal organ, Jacobson's organ, excuse me. It's easy for me to say. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a veterinarian, but when I got my certification, I did have to take courses in canine physiology. And so I studied hard to learn about what my dog can do. So when your dog is sniffing, oh, by the way, one other thing, there are some secretion glands on our body that dogs can pick up on, and they're usually by the eyes, I think by the mouth, under the arms, around the breast, and in the crotch. So when a dog goes up and puts its nose up in a person's private part, It's really not being rude. What it is doing is actually reading that person and what's going on with them. And so it's kind of, you have to apologize for the dog doing that. But there may be something going on with that person that the dog is picking up on. I do know, and I will tell you for a fact that I know Bo is capable of reading individuals, and he will read individuals. And when he goes to somebody, I know why he's going. He's picking up on something on that person, and he will go to them. And I don't stop him because he is doing that. So anyway, this is the olfactory system for canines and the scent structure. I hope you like this part of this. I thought it was pretty interesting going back and going over my information, my research and stuff on this. I think it's interesting to know what goes on with our dogs. So the next time your puppy comes up and sniffs you, don't push it away. You know, it's learning more about you. So that's that. Now, I'm going to turn this off real quickly here. Stop the screen sharing. And this part is not a paid endorsement, okay, of a product. I got to grab some stuff down here. So this is not a paid endorsement. And so I want you to know that. But somebody asked me, they said, Frank, I got a dog that's a destructive puppy. It's a chewer. And so I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop it. I've tried the bitter apple. I've tried the bitter cranberry, and it doesn't do any good. I would like to point out maybe these might be some way of helping. So this is an alternative for you. And again, this is not a paid endorsement. This is my recommendation on something. And again, you can take my recommendations for what they're worth. You can throw them in the trash, whatever you do. So it's based on what I believe is good and well. Okay. So these are, everybody's seen these. These are Kong chews. And I don't know if you know this or not, but they are actually, there's, I think, 4 or 5 different color codes that they use. And each color code determines what type of chewer that it is. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult for one of the colors for that it's a heavy chewer or a heavy biter. So, but anyway, these are Kongs, and they actually do come in puppy size too. But you can't let them have them very long if they're going to be a large breed dog, because they can swallow those. So, but these are really kind of good. And what people do is they take and they put treats inside of them. And so they put the treats inside. They can put peanut butter in there. Now, I'm not opposed to peanut butter, but I will tell you that you have to be very careful with peanut butter, because peanut butter can have xylitol in it. Xylitol is a sweetener, and it can kill your dog. And I will tell you that flat out. It will shut your dog's kidneys down. So stay away from peanut butters that have xylitol in them. It's XYLETOL, I think is the spelling on it. So look in the ingredients. Make sure that you start checking ingredients. And we start talking about nutrition in some of the coming videos. We will talk about reading ingredients. But anyway, you can put peanut butter in here. And what I recommend is taking this and putting it in the freezer. Put the peanut butter in there, put it in the freezer. That way it will last longer, and it will really keep that puppy occupied trying to get that out of there. So these are Kongs. And again, you can use them that way. They do have, they do sell cheese, kind of like Cheese Whiz thing that you can spray in there. I'm not a big fan of cheese for dogs, but anyway, peanut butter works really well too. So those are Kong chews, and you can get those almost at any pet store. Now here's another Kong product, and again, this is not a paid endorsement. Okay, this is for a heavy chewer, large breed dog. And what this does is that you open this up and you put your treats inside of here. Now I would recommend using really large treats, because you could put kibble in here, but if you put kibble in there, unfortunately, this hole is fairly large. And so if it rolls over, a lot of kibble is going to fall out of there. And dogs will play with these for hours trying to get that stuff out of there. And this is pretty indestructible. Now, I've only had one dog. I've only had one dog in 6 years that was able to destroy one of these. And I was amazed, utterly amazed at its ability to get in there and chew that up. So anyway, you can get that from Kong. One of the other ones that I like from this is called a gyro. And it looks like it's almost like a little spaceship. But what you do is you unscrew this top and you drop your treats or your kibbles inside of there. And then they just roll this around all over the floor. So it rolls around all over the floor and they will work this thing to death trying to get that treat out of there. So this is really a good product for a dog that has chewing problems. In most cases, the chewing problem is because it's bored. And so this causes a lot of mental activity that allows it to keep learning and growing and not biting everything up in the world. So again, this is called the Kong Gyro. And I really do like it a lot because it keeps them so occupied. And there's a treat actually inside of here. So that is the Kong Gyro. Now, for the last thing I want to talk about today is I couldn't do this in the last video because the snowstorm and I couldn't get out of my house because I don't drive in snow in Denver because that would be a death wish. And so I wanted to talk about this last time, but I'll talk about it now. Okay. This is Herbie, and Herbie, I think, is a Springer Spaniel. But anyway, somebody asked me, said, Frank, why do you, in your program, why do you not allow a leash on the collar? And there's a good reason for that. Okay. You look at here, you've got the spinal cord, a very soft spinal cord. Remember that the bone structure of a puppy is, still growing. And then all underneath here, you got the trachea, you got the vocal cords and all of that, and you got a lot of soft tissue. If somebody, and I see this all the time, I see people dragging their dog around like this. So they got that leash just as tight as they can and dragging that puppy. Well, think about what the damage could be and that's caused underneath here from that. And add on the top of that, people that use the pinch collars and the choke collars, there's even more damage that could be caused. And so it's really very important for people to understand that you can cause a lot of damage to your dog. And with the recipients that we have with PTSD, when a person is triggering, a lot of times they don't even know their own strength. So we want to avoid any damage to that puppy at all. So that's why we do not allow a leash on the collar. Now, the way this little harness works, it goes around the front of the puppy and then it comes around underneath. And what you do is you take your leash and you hook it on the puppy this way. And so it's not going to cause as much damage to the puppy, or relatively small amount of damage if anything happens. But this, you can find these types of harnesses, or you can find a vest that does exactly the same thing. So if you want to avoid a lot of damage to your puppy and give it a healthy life, a long, healthy life, I would really recommend using a harness or a vest. Now, in our program, we do require a harness and a vest. We will not allow a leash on the collar. And that's the first thing I teach everybody as quickly as possible, that we're not going to allow that. So avoid damage to your puppy and to its neck and to the soft tissue and everything under here. This is your puppy, and it's going to last you a long, long time. And it wants to love you and it wants to please you. In about a week or so, I've got a huge announcement coming up. So be watching on Frank Griggs Relationship Bond Training. Got a really big announcement coming up, and that's all for today. So look forward to talking with you all later. Have a wonderful day. This is Talking About Puppies with Frank. Bye-bye.